The war you were sold. Influence, power, and the architecture of consent. Listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is not comfortable. It's not designed to soothe you. It's not designed to make you feel safe. It's designed to make you think. Because right now, while headlines scream about war, while commentators argue over strategy, while social media floods your feed with outrage, something deeper is happening. Not chaos. Not confusion. Coordination. And here's the uncomfortable question you need to sit with. What if the war isn't just happening on the battlefield, but inside your perception? What if the real objective isn't victory overseas, but control at home? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see patterns you can't unsee. And once you see them, you don't go back. If you're ready for uncomfortable truths, hit like, subscribe, and stay all the way through, because the second half of this video connects everything. Well, part 1. The idea that never left. Let's start with a claim that sounds controversial, but isn't new. The idea of war with Iran didn't suddenly appear. It's been discussed, debated, and quietly planned across multiple administrations. Policies change. Messaging changes. But certain strategic interests, they don't disappear. They evolve. And here's where things get interesting. Public narratives often present war as reactive. Something that happens because of events. But historically, major conflicts are rarely spontaneous. They are framed. They are justified. They are sold. Not always through lies, but often through selective truth. And that brings us to the next layer. Part 2. The rebranding of power. Every political era promises something different. Change. Peace. Strength. Stability. But behind those slogans, something more consistent operates. Continuity of influence. Here's the pattern. Leaders campaign against war. They criticize past interventions. They position themselves as different. Then once in power, the same machinery continues. Maybe with a different tone. Maybe with different faces. But the same trajectory. So what changed? The messengers. Part 3. Trust as a weapon. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the battlefield has shifted. It's no longer just tanks and missiles. It's trust. Think about it. Who do people trust today? Podcast hosts. Influencers. Media personalities. Independent voices. Now imagine those voices. People you've trusted to question power. Suddenly aligning with narratives that justify conflict. Not aggressively. Not obviously. But gradually. framed as necessary, framed as inevitable, framed as the lesser evil. And here's the critical insight. The most effective persuasion doesn't come from people you distrust. It comes from people you already believe. So the question becomes, are voices being elevated because they challenge power? Or because they can redirect dissent? Part 4. The system behind the system. Now let's move deeper. Because focusing only on public figures misses the bigger picture. Power doesn't operate only through visible leaders. It operates through networks, defense contractors, intelligence-linked institutions, financial entities, technology firms. These networks don't need headlines. They shape outcomes quietly. Through contracts, influence, and long-term positioning. And here's where things get even more complex. War isn't just geopolitical. It's economic. Well, Part 5. Follow the incentives. War impacts. Oil markets. Global supply chains. Currency stability. Investment flows. And volatility. While dangerous for the public, can be extremely profitable for those positioned correctly. So, when you see sudden shifts, announcements that move markets, statements that trigger reactions, you have to ask, who benefits from the volatility? Part 5. When war becomes business. Now, let's talk about the part most people avoid. War is always presented as morality, freedom, security, defense, protection. But behind every major conflict, there is also an economic reality. Weapons contracts expand. Energy markets swing violently. Defense stocks surge. Reconstruction deals appear before the destruction is even finished. And ordinary people? They pay through inflation, instability, shortages, taxes, and death. That's the ugly truth no politician wants to say out loud. Because modern war is no longer just about territory. It's also about profit, leverage, and global positioning. Part 6. The psychology of selling war. Most people don't support war immediately. They have to be emotionally moved toward it. That's why every conflict comes with fear-driven headlines, emotional imagery, simplified narratives, constant repetition. It means fear can be used to accelerate public consent. And history shows this has happened repeatedly. Part 7. The cost is never paid by the powerful. The people encouraging conflict rarely fight it. The billionaire class does not send their children into collapsing cities. Political elites don't stand in food lines after oil shocks. Ordinary people carry the consequences. Soldiers, families, workers, civilians trapped between governments. And while populations suffer, entire industries grow richer from prolonged instability. That's why endless war is so dangerous. Because for some systems, Peace is less profitable than permanent tension. Part 8. War abroad changes life at home. Most people think war only affects distant countries. That's false. War changes domestic life too. Prices rise. Surveillance expands, governments gain emergency powers. Public dissent becomes easier to label as dangerous. And during conflict, populations are more willing to surrender freedoms in exchange for promises of safety. That pattern repeats throughout history. Not because citizens are stupid, but because fear changes human behavior. Part 9. The real battle is perception. Modern warfare isn't only physical anymore. It's informational. The battle is no longer just who has the strongest military, but also who controls the narrative, who shapes public emotion, who defines truth in real time. Because if governments and media can shape perception, they can shape public acceptance of almost anything. That is why information warfare has become just as important as missiles. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Wars don't only destroy cities. They reshape societies. They transfer wealth. They expand power. They normalize fear. And they often leave ordinary people paying the price for decisions they never truly controlled. So before blindly choosing sides, ask harder questions. Who benefits? Who profits? Who gains power from endless instability? Because real awareness is not blindly supporting every narrative. It's refusing to stop thinking during moments of fear. So, if this video challenged your perspective even a little, do me a favor. Hit like so more people can see this discussion. Comment below and tell me, do you think modern wars are really about security? Or something much bigger? Share this video with someone who still believes every headline without questioning it. And subscribe for more deep commentary, analysis, and uncomfortable conversations the mainstream usually avoids. Because the battle for the future is not only being fought with weapons, it's being fought for your mind.